Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this panel discussion sponsored by Onset Communication. My name is Brian Sharp. I co-founded this company to solve my own problems on set. We are a technology company that builds communication and collaboration solutions to help facilitate better decisions on set, which saves time and money. Today, we are presenting a conversation with directors of photography and producers on how they prepare for a shoot and communicate with their crew. Just before we get into the introductions of the panelists, a little housekeeping. This is meant to be an interactive conversation, so I see people have already started to text in the text field. Feel free to ask questions at any time, and then I will pass those questions on to the panelists and answer them. And if we don't get to all of them, there'll be some time at the end to go back to some of those questions and ask them again. So today we are joined by Becky Parsons, and I am doing live switching of this camera feeds right now. Rion Gonzales and Kent Parker. So just to start with Becky. Becky has more than 20 years experience within the motion picture arts. She is a cinematographer and a director of photography of feature films and television series, fictional and documentary. Currently, Becky is in prep for her next project, Barry Dunn's feature film titled The Madones. Did I get that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Great. Okay. In 2018, Becky founded production company No Fear Films and is producing a horror feature film with writer Sarah.
Gignac. Sarah Gignac.
Thank you, Sarah Gignac, and executive producer Terry Greenwald. And I think we first met on Anne with an E, the Netflix series.
That's right. PEI.
Yeah, shooting on the beach. That was fun. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
So next we have Rion Gonzales. Rion is an award-winning cinematographer, having received recognition and awards at festivals across the globe, including TIFF, Sundance, Boston, Berlin, and Houston film festivals. He is currently the co-chair of the Diversity Committee of the Canadian Society for Cinematographers. His most recent work includes second unit DP on the Netflix series Lock and Key and the series Wayne that's streaming on Amazon Prime. And I actually had to get a calculator out to figure out how long we've known each other, and it's been 30 years. So that's pretty good.
Wow. That's pretty good, Brian.
Thanks for joining. And last but not least, Kent Parker. Kent is an experienced producer, director, and assistant director, understanding the intersection of arts and commerce in the production process. Over the last 25 years, he's produced, directed, and assistant directed hundreds of broadcast television commercials, as well as digital content, documentaries, sports, and interactive campaigns. Some examples of recent campaigns of work have included Olympic Cheerios, Canada Dry, and Italia Pasta. And I think we met 5 years ago between mutual friends. You've helped me at trade shows, and you've used our solution on shoots.
Yeah, I've used the system quite a few times. I really like it. Great communication tool. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. All right, so I'm just going to start off with the first question. In your role, how do you prepare for a shoot? So let's start with Becky.
Yes. I have a couple of things prepared to show you. I'll screen share in a sec. And making it a feature film bias in that I have a video and a PDF and some stills to show at the stage when you got the gig, you're location scouting, and you're building the vision for the film. So I'll screen share. Way back when the working title of Weirdos was 1970 something. And I just got a couple of pieces within this video. Essentially what this video is, Bruce McDonald, the director, was in Toronto, and we were location scouting without him. That's Matt, the production designer, and Keith, the first AD. So I went out. I had the opportunity to go out to grab a camera with a camera assistant and take some location pieces, different elements that may be interesting to use in the film, and just made kind of this reel, this black and white reel of pieces to show Bruce, as he was not here in Atlantic Canada. He was in Toronto. We did quite a lot of the prep this way. Yeah, I'll just show you a couple more pieces here, like some texture. Yeah, that's kind of the basic, and there's a whole reel of stuff there. I just picked out a few moments. Then moving on to another feature film. This was a documentary, and again, way back when, Carmine Street Guitars was the Rick Kelly project. And so we'd been to New York, and this was stills and discussion. I'd created this PDF of a document of an initial design. It didn't kind of go this way totally, but this was an initial design that I presented once I'd done a location scout, a documentary, very small crew, one location essentially in New York, guitar shop, and then sort of B-roll of the area. So we had some texture stuff in here too, and our characters, Cindy, a little bit of where I was going with the design of the cameras, like the technical, different elements. It's a very initial design on note paper. Just scanned it in. And this was the location here. So front of the shop and back of the shop. And exterior of the shop. I don't know if this gives a good idea. And then some comps. So that was that. And then just to finish that, here's our Leanne and Cindy. We're showing Cindy the person that she was one of the participants, what she looked like, and then some palette stuff, which is essentially about the color. And it stayed pretty true to that when we got to the end of the movie. And here I am again. So that a couple of things that I prepared that way, and that is kind of an initial before you kind of get into the nuts and bolts of technical prep and what you're going to need to do to build the crew, etc. And that was kind of broad strokes what those films were based on, early prep.
So I'll pretend to be the novice here and just ask some simple questions. Who do you end up sharing that with initially? Like, who are you building that for? Everyone or yourself or?
Yeah, so the reel I was building for Bruce, who was in Toronto, and also myself and the production designer, who was Matt. And kind of at that time, I think maybe the first AD was on board, and sort of anybody within the core team would have had the option to see that if they wanted to. It's kind of part of my process, mine and Bruce's more than anyone else's, but I would share whatever anybody felt like they wanted to see.
Okay, great.
Oh, and same with the PDF too. Essentially, that's just between myself and the director at that stage. Bit of his photography, mostly my stills. I had taken some video on location too. We'd spent, I think, 3 days there on our initial location scout, and that PDF, I think, pretty much stayed between myself and the director. Yeah.
Okay, great. And what type of projects do you normally work on with that level of detail and prep?
Oh, what type of projects? I would say that I pretty much have at least that detail for every project that I'm DOPing, creating cinematography for, however you want to say it. I work in feature film. I mean, these kind of boards are really important, I find, in building the vision for a feature film with a director. I'm in prep right now with Barry Dunn, and I'm doing a similar thing with boards and palette, although we're black and white. But this is a feature film kind of process, I'd say. I know that we're gonna see other process that Rion has for other commercials and TV. Over to you.
It's a good segue to Rion. Same question to you.
Well, yeah, everything that Becky has described, I also go through, except I don't think I've ever actually gone out and shot video footage for director. But that's on a feature film, right, Becky? Yeah. I can tell you what I did on my last show, not Lock and Key or Wayne. Well, actually Wayne as well, but on my last show, which happened just last year, what I had to do was come up with I got the script prior to getting hired, and I have to provide a visual sort of lookbook as to what I feel the story and how the story should be told, and how my vision for what was going on. I'll just show that to you right now. I wasn't expecting to do this at this point, but I'll just show this to you. Oh, right, I gotta hit this thing, right? Hopefully everybody can see this, but essentially, I can't show you the first page because it names the project, and but essentially, I'm not allowed to do that quite just yet, but here's a bit of a lookbook, and I wanted to get an emotive feeling from the script, and to show the producers how I was thinking of lighting and what we're going to do. It's about this particular episode dealt with a young boy. So this is what I wanted to start out with. I also wanted to give more extreme looks into how we're going to project the story. So I went ahead and I used this as a cinematic approach, and I described that. I wanted to make sure that whatever we did had some grounding in design, because for me, everything that we shoot needs to have a design element to it. I think that's a great place to start. And then we talked about camera language. And I also didn't want to just keep shooting one thing. There are times when I feel the stories need to breathe. We need to stop and just watch and listen to what's going on around us within that story. So I use this image to portray that thought. And then I also wanted to get into really extreme close-ups of things that this young boy would be doing and why. This is very particular to the story of that episode. I can't tell you what it is, but we definitely needed some macros because there's some small things happening in there. And that was sort of the lookbook, and I guess it won me the job. I was able to get that job, which was great. Should I continue, Brian, or?
Yeah, for sure. But you actually.
I have a question for you, actually.
Sure.
I have a question for you, Rion. Like with that, when you're doing this kind of work prior to you mentioned that you did all of that prior to even being hired.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of writing to that too, as well as searching for image and whatnot, a lot of thought that goes behind that. Does that something that you try to do for all your projects? And is that kind of expected?
It's expected for me. I have to be able to, I want to say convince, I think inspire the showrunners whose baby it is. I mean, they come up with these ideas and they want this stuff, and they want someone who has a visual representation that's going to either complement what they're looking for or push it beyond what they're even thinking. So these visual elements comes down to my thoughts and how I interpret the script, and then how the production designer also interprets the script, and then there's the director as well, the director's vision. And the three of us have to sort of get together and come up with a plan. The director, has basically has the carte blanche of the decisions. The showrunner can't override that, but generally speaking, I have to show them what I'm thinking, and if they like the way I'm thinking, I'll get the job. If they don't like the way I'm thinking, I won't get the job. So it takes hours. Sometimes it takes days looking at a script and trying to interpret that script, and you have to read it over and over again, and then try and pick out very specific elements of that script to show visual representations of that, what you're thinking and how that's going to happen. And so far, I've been okay. I'm doing okay so far. So that's good. The next thing I have here, I mean, this was particular to a poor man's process. We wanted to shoot people in a car, and I found some images that I felt were like could work, and then the director, I showed these to the director, and he ended up on number 11. I numbered them so he could, so at least, if he says, well, I like this one, I need to know exactly what this one meant. So number 11, and from there we started building our process, how we were going to shoot that and make it and get it as close to that as possible, knowing fully well that it's a completely different thing. In here is sort of my discussions with the director and what I wanted to do for this particular episode. Generally speaking, we talked about, I hope people can see them, how big this is for them. But we looked at these as looks. I wonder if I can actually, yeah, I can. Looking at these as looks, the set art that we had is actually very similar to the set. So I wanted to make sure that everybody understood that it's going to be a very soft, not very contrasty look when we got into that set. We also had another set which gives the opportunities to have lots of light coming through with we could smoke and put atmosphere in there. So again, I wanted to show them a representation of what that's probably going to look like. We're going to try and go for it, making sure that the producers and the showrunners understood this is what's going to happen, giving them the opportunity to say we like it or we don't like it, because you don't want to show up, start shooting something, lighting something, then find out halfway through that they don't like it. So this is sort of that. I also went on. We had an exterior set. Oops. Sorry, it's very sensitive here. On a beach, and I really wanted to get this look going, this sort of browny yellow, and here's my color swatches, and I discussed that with the director, and he loved it, so we went ahead and we tried to do that. Later on, I don't know how much you want me to keep going into this without any questions.
Keep going.
Keep going? Okay. So this is something that we had in our mind and we planned to do. We also had a basic color palette that we wanted to make sure. So we had these browns with blues and the blacks. And these are all the things we ended up discussing during prep for that episode. There's all kinds of meetings. There's tone meetings with the showrunners, what the tone that they wanted and how this to feel. And then we had discussions with the production designer on the set and how we wanted the set to work. And then we had, and then all this stuff I actually get at some point, and I make a different document that I give to the crew that I'm working with, so they have a better understanding of what we're trying to get. So everyone's aware of what we're going to do, and hopefully it's not too many silly questions on the day of the shoot. Okay, that's for that document.
So this document is partly for you and who else?
The director, showrunners. Right, it's a creative document, so what we sort of plan and what we want to do.
Great.
Sorry, guys. Let me shut this off. That's definitely the school calling for my son, who's late. This document basically, so after all that's said and done, and we do a bunch of location scouts, and we finally pick the location we want, we do our tech scout, and the art department provides us with these wonderful location stills for the day, and basically telling the crew that's going out there where we're going to be, how it's going to be, what it's going to look at, the sections that we're going to be shooting in. So here are some of the sections that we're shooting in here, in the forest. And there's another section in here at a different location. Here are some things that they wanted to get rid of. The reason why the stuff's redacted is because this show is in post, and I certainly don't want to be giving anything away and breaking my what do you call it? My contract, my
confidentiality.
My
NDA.
NDAs. Thank you. So here are some of the locations that we have, and we go into these locations and we see these locations. At this point, I'm taking pictures of my own. Here's a section that we'll be shooting in this location. And the art department is providing all these pictures and all this stuff. They create it's called a tech pack, and they give this out to the tech scout crew that's coming out. So that would be the gaffer, the grip, art department people, set dressers, producers, director, myself. Locations, really important, because they have to make sure that we can get these locations and we can have all this cordoned off, and then they have to provide parking. The gaffer will have to know where he's going to put the Jenny. So for instance, this is the area we're shooting in, and the Jenny was placed in this section over here, right? Cameras are all inside here. We have to hide all that stuff, cables and all that. Another location again. So this is just, again, the tech pack that the art department provides. I just plan on taking my own pictures. So again, if you need to know all this stuff, here's a schematics of the set that was being built, and the different classrooms that we're having in here. And this all makes sense as I move on, but this is generally what happens on a Tech Scout. We get this package of information, and here's the set with the this is the one bedroom set. I think this is the one that isn't very contrasty. We may end up making it contrasty. We asked art department to do very specific things. These slats in here were put in because, again, speaking with the director, we wanted to make sure that we had beams of light coming in so we could throw atmosphere and see these beams of light and have a very more contrasty look. Before I move on, any questions about this?
No, actually, I think that's a good segue into Kent and what he does on set. Because you give all of this to the crew.
Well, no, that's not the one I give to the crew. That's the one that's given to the Tech Scout crew.
Oh yeah, show me. Do you have examples of what you give to the crew?
Well, yeah, I do. So what I give to the crew. So once we've established our Tech Scout, I go back in and I put my documents together, right? And my documents are way more detailed. It comes with our schedule for the day, what we're shooting for that day. And then what I end up doing with the stuff that the art department provided, I started putting details into what's going to happen. So when we get there on set, people aren't saying, so what do you want to hear and what do you want there? It's like it's laid out so they know. So they have a pre-call, they come in. I don't need to be there. And for instance, I want this window to be Hampshire Frost, which is a diffusion gel. We have a locker room scene that we're shooting in here. I'm going to put an 800 Joker bounce off the ceiling. Here are 3 10Ks pointing through colored glass that we're going to put into here. A 5K hung in the corner, which is above the set. 12 by 12 diffusion hung over the set, which is this. So all this stuff is sort of, I take my weekend, I come home or if I have time doing prep, but most likely it's on a weekend, and I sort of lay this stuff out thinking, imagining what I feel, this is what I need to do to get the effect that I want. So as you saw before, these are my pictures compared to the art department pictures. And then what I do, I put in where the sun's going to be because it's a daytime exterior. And I want to make sure that based on what time we get there, we need to know where the sun's going to be so we can figure out what extra gear we're going to need. And I tell them to prepare 12 by 12 solid on frame overhead, cover for when we're shooting close-ups, and an 8 by 8 ultra bounce, so they know this. I also told, so this here's my DIT. This is the sort of color palette that we're looking for, and we actually got that, which is great. We were able to get that. Again, more sun stuff. This is what's going on. Oops, that should have been redacted. This is where the track's going to be. Approximately 7 pieces for the shot. We have another shot here with a Ronin underslung on a dolly. So all this stuff that the grip and lighting get it, camera department gets it, DIT gets it. And sometimes the director will get one of these and the AD will get it as well. So they're all informed as to what the plan, at least what my plan is. And that allows people to either say, well, wait a minute, we can't do that. And it gives people the opportunity to ask questions, if not to me, to themselves, so we can all figure out what needs to get done before we get there. We go, oh, we never thought of that. We had no idea this is what was going to happen. So great. Again, more locations and stuff like that. This stuff's redacted because it's actually in here. I put in storyboards so people know what's going on. I can't show you storyboards again for NDA purposes, and they're not mine to show. I do want to show one thing here, though. Let me get there. Right. So this is sort of my lighting plan for that beach shots. Again, we were there. The art department had their pictures. These are my pictures, based on where the sun's going to be and what time we're going to be there. This is my rendition of a 170-foot, 120-foot boom with some big lights on it. Initially, we thought we'd use a 24K maxi brute. We ended up using some 18K pars, I think, to do that. We wanted to get this look. I hate when it does that. And then, so just so you guys know, I ended up, oh, where is it? I have it. I know I have it. I had it prepared for you.
Not a Windows open on your computer.
Hang on. Here, let me just get it here. For Brian. That's what I have. We ended up getting, I think, very close to what we're looking for, as an example. So here is the color palette we were going for, and I think we came pretty close to that. And we can fix whatever we need to in post once we get into color. And that's pretty much it. That's what I do to prepare. That's how I want my crew to be as informed as possible. I want them to be involved, and I want them to be able to ask the questions they need to ask, and I just want them to be prepared so we don't look like fools on the day.
That's great. So that's a good segue into Kent and what you do, how you prepare as a producer and first AD.
Yeah, well, and it was an amazing presentation by both Becky and Rion to show how they are inspired and bring a lot of organization to the sets. That's a huge part of my job. I mostly work in commercial world, so everything that Becky and Rion talked about is a bit compressed in our world. I might have a job next week that I'm producing that I've got a week and a half to put together an entire shoot day. And kind of take into account all the prep that certainly the camera department's putting into things and cinematographers, but also everybody else that's involved. So I got to kind of take into account all departments. And so when Rion mentioned giving that document to getting it around to everybody and getting everybody familiar with what they want to do, I also have to understand what our department needs to do, what wardrobe might need to do with talent. If makeup needs to process a whole bunch of people, or we're doing crazy hairdos or something like that, all those things have to kind of come into play when you're organizing a shoot, or either a long form shoot or even just at one shoot day. All those departments have to interact together, and it's not just about one department, it's about everybody. If I don't have the actor in the right wardrobe for that scene, or they need more time and we're waiting, it doesn't matter that everything's great with the sun and everything. If that person's not there, we don't have the shot. So to that end, what I'd like to do is kind of take all these different departments, understand what they think they need to get their best work in front of the camera, and then build a master schedule that accounts for all of those things. So taking, say, Rion's preparation and understanding that they got to move, that a couple of 18Ks on a techno crane into a space. How do they get to that space? While also understanding that I have to get, a hero car out into that space as well from the art department, and then also have, 5 talent in various wardrobes. So I put together a master schedule that looks a little bit like this. I'll share quickly this. This is, as Brian mentioned, this is a spot I did about a week and a half ago. This is sort of a master schedule that shows what call times for all talent, including agency and client. And then each shot or each frame that we're kind of trying to get at, sometimes I'll end up with a lot more camera notes in here. Here we're just doing some major coverage and things like that, but I'll note products, I'll note what talent is involved, what location of the house we're in, some of the inspiration that we do get from the DOP may end up in this schedule. And then understanding that as we're working ahead and working behind, we're moving through a space where people might have to move, make a camera move camera to upstairs, frame up here, whatever, get talent ready. So there's a lot of this kind of thing that kind of takes everybody's needs and takes into account everybody's needs to make the best of that shoot day or that project. And so it's a lot of exchange of information. And I might use that schedule on a shoot day. I can also chunk it out so that I can just show what wardrobe needs to accomplish, what props needs to accomplish, and give them some timings. Again, what happens on a shoot day, as we all know when we're out there, is that things change and you need to be able to adjust on the fly at times. But having a good game plan going into it, and that also anticipates if we're going to end up with a cloudy day or whatever the case may be, allowing us to achieve what we need to do on that day. No one wants to have a shot or two left over for another time, or we want to be able to achieve what we want to do. So a lot of that comes with, again, taking into account everybody's wants and needs. And that's a real big part of what I do.
Hey, can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
So you have clients, you have agency, you have a director, you have a production company. How do you navigate the organization between all four parties there?
Well, there's a lot of listening that goes on. I have, because again, in commercials, it's quite different. I think that there's a lot of common goals with the work that you and Becky do when you're working on a film. I mean, you do have showrunners that might, not agree exactly with the director or whatever. But here, when I've got the added layer of agency and client communication, between all of those places is you need to facilitate as much as possible. So I do a lot of listening at the beginning, just understanding what every level of this production needs. With that Atal Pasta shoot, I have to take into account. I'm actually putting one of the the CEO of that commercial ended up in client ended up in the commercial. So I have to sort of account for his timing on the day. I have to account for a lot of those things. So the early times is just listening, taking all that information in, and then again building something that accounts for everybody's needs as much as possible. And then if I find that there are conflicts, it's a lot of it is just coming back to them with either suggestions for solutions or to let them know that there are things that we need to address with our scheduling or whatever. So a lot of it is just back and forth communication and a lot of listening and understanding what people's motivations are to do things.
On set, do you have multiple like ADs running? So do you have one that basically just takes care of the clients, one that takes care of the agency, and then one that takes care of actual, the set? Like, how do you work that?
Frankly, these days with budgets, they don't give me many ADs to work with. So I generally, when I produce something, I actually AD it myself. I find that those two jobs intersect really well on commercials. As a producer, I'm directly dealing with the agency and the agency producer and their team, as well as the client. And then as an AD, I've kind of scheduled a day so I can make it work. Now I'll end up with a second or third, but it usually is based on how many talent I have to deal with and how much processing in that end. It's kind of a case-by-case basis, though. A lot of times what a producer ends up doing on set is just sitting with the client and agency team, listening to their needs and passing that on to the director and AD. But again, I like to kind of compress all of that just because I'm the keeper of the information, I suppose.
Great, thanks, man.
Yeah.
That's great. So I think that leads into my next question. Sorry, which is, what's the most challenging part of prep? And maybe we could start with Becky.
Hello. Gosh, yeah. There's a lot of challenges. I think it's fitting it in once you get really close to the time of shoot. Like, there's a lot of things that happen in the last 2 to 3, well, I'd say 2 weeks for me at the moment. I'm just entering the last 2 weeks of prep before we shoot. And it's also the time that I'm going to start preparing my body for long days. I mean, there's long days, but for the days where you're up and working by crack of dawn and continuing working until who knows when. And so I'll, you know, those sort of prep days is when I start to prepare myself, start turning my body into the machine that's got to go for another 3 weeks on a feature. And I don't know if that's sort of challenging, but then I kind of love a lot of things about prep, because for me, getting into the mind of the director is really exciting. And when you start kind of vibing and kind of kicking off on all pistons, that is really exciting. Yeah, I sort of answers the question. Exciting and challenging. There we go.
Yeah, that should have been how I phrased it. That's great. How about Kent? Same question.
I think that the frustrations that I might feel are generally when, honestly, I find it's when I'm working with folks that are not clear enough in their direction and are, you know, they're looking for somebody to help them out. But honestly, a lot of these ideas should be coming from clients or agency or whatever in my world. So I kind of try to help guide them towards an idea in terms of, you know, whatever it's a shot or whatever it might be. I think that what I just find that clear communication between of what a department needs is absolutely key to making a great day happen, a great shoot happen. If somebody isn't forthcoming or has, like, you know, whatever, a delivery coming late or whatever it might be, if they're not passing that on to the producer, we end up unprepared, and I'd rather know what the problems are early on. So that's the biggest thing. What I try to impart to anybody that I'm working with is just, let's be open about it right out of the gate so that we can deal with any issues that might come up. It just makes no one wants surprises on those days. You just don't want to be unprepared, and so getting a surprise last minute is a place that none of us want to be. You can avoid that by everybody just being open about what's happening within their departments. If, you know, we're waiting for a lens to come in or something like that, we need to know that, and so that we can deal with it, whether it's reschedule a day, rejig how we're going to do something, all those kinds of things. So that's what I would say is most important to me.
What's the most exciting part for you?
Well, I do love the creative process, working closely with directors, DOPs, producers, writers, just when they're trying to figure out how things can be done. You know, I've been on a lot of sets over the years. That's one of the benefits of, you know, working in the commercial business. There's a lot. Every job has its own little challenges. There's no set way to do it, but having been involved in so many different projects, that's where I can kind of say, well, I've tried something like that before. This is what we ran into on that job. So using the experience that I have, and then working with people with great creative ideas who, you know, that's the cool thing about our business, is that everyone's trying to take a little, what looks like a simple scene and make something amazing out of it every time. Love that, and love being able to work through all those levels of how to get to something that we all love.
Great. Rion, same question.
Oh, I'm out of focus. This stupid camera drives me bananas. I need a focus puller. Sorry. We'll get back at some point. I think for me personally, well, first of all, I think Becky and Kent hit it on the nose. That I'll start with the most exciting part is being able to vibe with your director and your creative team, having a common language and and getting to understand each other's muse. It's amazing to be there. That's a very, very exciting thing. And you're gonna get there. So it's always great, right? I think that's fantastic. For me, what was the other question? The other part of that question was, what's the most frustrating thing? What was that?
Yeah, that'll work. Frustrating, challenging.
Well, challenging. Yeah, I think personally for me, time. There's never enough time to prep, right? You'll be prepping, like you got to go to camera, and things aren't ready. So, for instance, I've had experiences where scripts aren't written, aren't ready yet. You're still waiting for scripts to be ready, and it's like it's 2 days before, and the script's still not done. You still have to go do a tech scout. You still have to find the location, and nothing can move until the scripts are ready. But time, I think, and time is a killer. It doesn't matter how much money you have. Though when I say that, I have to mention that I was lucky enough to go to get a chance to see Dune private screening with the director, and here's their timing. They for a year just talked about Dune, and then they spent another 7 months to a year writing Dune, and then they spent a year prepping Dune. So, talk about time, right? And if you see a movie, you can see like they had a lot of time. And so time is the most frustrating thing. It's always nice to have more time to prep because there's always something that needs to be fixed, needs to be dealt with, and the more time you have in prep, I think the better your project will turn out.
I have a question for you, Rion.
Mm-hmm.
How do you cope with the rising stress of time management, or going with it when you're getting close and close and close, even throughout a shoot too, where things are not quite ready or not quite there, or there's another plan B, C, D happening because of whatever? Do you have any tricks or thoughts that you use to kind of keep a lid on it?
Well, for me, I make sure that the departments that I'm in charge of are ready to go, because that's all I can do. I can't write someone's script. I can't go build sets. So when things start coming out of the crunch, I go, okay, stop. I need to stop doing other people's jobs or getting involved in other people's things, and it becomes a YPMP issue. Your problem against my, your problem, my problem, and my issues then are, well, are we ready to go? And I just try to make sure that that's why I do all this crazy paperwork. So if I feel that we're ready to go, then this sounds harsh. It's not my problem at that point.
Yeah, fair.
We're ready to go.
It's kind of the producer's problem, right? Like that really is.
Yeah,
becomes the producer's problem.
We're ready to go.
Yeah.
We're good. We're ready to go. Sets aren't ready. I can't do anything about that. We're here.
So a little trick that I have passed on to a few people is that if you look around and they're not waiting for you, then all is well. Carry on.
Yeah.
If they're waiting for you, then rush, walk fast, be safe, rush, get the job done.
Yeah, I just make sure that we're ready to go. I just make sure that at a certain point, the cutoff point, okay, we can't do this anymore. I have to get my stuff ready to go, and with whatever is available to me, that's what we use, and then we get it. And if things change, we just have to roll with it, because they will change. Things always change, right? It always changes.
Which is why, and I think every person who has any small experience in filmmaking will say prep is extremely important part of the process for when you get there and you're all in the room doing it, on the set doing it. Yeah, prep, extremely number one thing.
Extremely important. And testing. Test.
Yes.
You're getting new lenses, test them. You're getting new camera, test it. Like, you got to test. Filters, you just don't know how they're going to react. But test.
Yes.
Do you think it matters the size of the project in terms of the same sentiment you both have expressed?
Sorry, I was just reading a question here from Darren. Some of my
It's a good
problems.
question there.
And you're asked to get a different set. Well, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
nobody.
all of our problem, collaboration.
How's that my problem?
Well, that's a huge
Sure.
part of it. It is all of our problem. When
It's everybody's
something
problem
like
because if producers or whoever switches the what do you call it, the schedule, and things have to get lit, then guess what? It's going to cost, because then we have to bring extra people in to get that lit. It's still not my problem. I don't make those decisions. We just get them done.
Yeah, like that's the thing. I think that's a good point there too, Rion. It's not, they're not necessarily problems. It's just another roadblock in the way of getting through that day or through that project.
Only
what
solution.
we do as well is come up with solutions.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of what we do. Is it's problem solving, and a lot of it can be done in prep. A lot of it happens on the fly. As we well know, somebody fires up a lawnmower next door to a house that you're shooting in. That's a problem. That's nothing that we can control until somebody goes over and talks to them, and whatever. So those kinds of little things are again things that I almost anticipate for each shoot, that there's going to be something. And the big part of it, I think, again, as a producer and an AD, is to show that it's not a problem, that there's possible solutions to all these things. So yeah, there's no, what Lem just said, or my old friend Lem, there are no problems, just challenges and ways to get around things and ways to solve them.
And also getting back to if there's prep and communication has happened, that that you're speaking a common language, having to light a set because maybe there's weather and we've got to swap it out on the day, like to light a set as efficiently as possibly, with the situation that is facing us, you lean back on your prep in order to make that efficient. Yeah.
So
it happens a lot, like where I've had this, like on a shoot day where it's like, this is just something just happened. It's impossible to shoot this scene right now. We have to flip the day right now. And what it becomes, again, an exercise as an AD, explain exactly what you need to do to make that happen, understand everybody's timing, say, okay, well, we got to do it this way. And, that's beyond our control. So let's try to make it happen. It may cost us here and there. That's all part of the game. And so I think that's a huge thing, is just to sort of, you also have to keep an open mind. And I understand where you're coming from, where it's not my department's problem, but like Darren said, a problem in one department does become a problem, and maybe it does become another department's problem to solve, or it's just taking everybody as a team and saying, we have this whole problem. We have this problem. How do we solve it?
Right, I would agree with that too, Kent, because truly, in the end, we're trying to make a piece of art, if you could say that, or try to get a job done. And regardless of, maybe the art department isn't ready with a set, it doesn't matter. The fact is, we're there to do a job and just get it done, and get it done well. So I don't want to get into saying things like, if one department's problem turns into somebody else's problems. Let's not look at
our problem.
It's everybody's issue. Let's just get it done and work together. And I prefer to have the crews that I work with be involved and to be empowered. And I don't like becoming a dictator. I much prefer to have my crew be empowered and to come up with solutions, because there's always something. Right?
It's a collaborative process. Film is a collaborative process. It's a collaboration between artists in all departments, and to give those artists a chance to shine, you just have to account for what they need to make that happen. So I think, in my experience, for the most part, you can make, like, everybody gets that opportunity if you have good prep, you have good collaboration and communication, and those things speak volumes to how a day or a shoot or a project go. And the breakdowns come, I think, with lack of communication and people saying, well, it's somebody else's problem. It isn't really. It really is all of our problems. How do we help make this thing happen? And if we can lend our talents to help that department or whatever, we do it.
Word. You had a question, Brian. Sorry.
No, that's all right. Our time is almost up anyway, so I just want to give a chance for everyone to ask any additional questions. This has been an amazing conversation. Thanks very much. Yeah, so if anybody has any questions, just text them and I can ask, or actually, everyone, all of us can see them. So please. Silence. There's my wrap. There's my end slide.
Well,
Can I ask you a question while we're just hanging out?
Absolutely.
Do you have like a quick little horror story of when things of like communication has broken down and you find yourself in the middle as a first AD and like without naming names or anything,
Yeah.
just like A to B quick little horror story?
Yeah, I'll tell you, there's one that turned into a good 20-hour day. Was a project that all along looked like it would be very simple until we got on set and we had a piece of gear that everyone thought would do one thing and it didn't quite get to what we needed to do. So there was a lot of scrambling on that day. That was a lack of preparation and a lack of testing. Again, when you work in shorthand, you can get away with a lot, again, with a lot of communication in that. But if you're trying to do something that you haven't prepared for, that you think is going to work, but you don't really know, that's where trouble arises. So yeah, I do. I mean, that was a day that needed it. The whole project was supposed to feel like one continuous shot, basically following a man's life from birth to death. Between bouncing with a technocrane between two rooms, with makeup changes and aging and all kinds of things, and it just the main piece of gear that we needed to make that work was built didn't have the extension that they needed, and so there was an initial communication with sets and our director and our camera department that somehow the translation didn't work. And when we set things up on the day, it just didn't look the way anyone thought it would. And they didn't test. So that was just about preparation.
Yeah, test.
That's amazing.
I got one for you. Shooting infrared film on 35. Did a whole bunch of research on it, called Kodak. We were able to get, when you buy infrared film, by the way, you have to buy a whole palette. You can't just buy one or two rolls. You have to buy the whole skid. So we were able to find another production and share that skid with another production. So then we went out and I literally wrote a book on how to handle infrared. We have to the infrared has to be packed in dry ice. The film has to be packed in dry ice. When you go in, you have to be in a completely black room, no lights whatsoever. You have to cool your hands down, or you're going to fog the film. And then we were spooling off pieces of this 1,000-foot rolls into specially made infrared 500-foot roll mags. So we laid out everything for the camera assistants, but they never read it. They actually didn't read the document, and then we even had to order a special camera from Panavision in the U.S. with a blackened gates and all kinds of special prep and an infrared video tap camera, and there's a lot. It was a big deal, and then some of the film came back completely fogged. You see handprints on it, all kinds of weird things, because this camera assistant didn't do their job because they didn't actually read the document, and that was such a horrible. It's so disappointing when you think you've done your job, everybody's going to do their job, and they don't. And so yeah, that was a pretty bad thing. Infrared, it looked good though. Whatever we got, the stuff that we did do looked fantastic. But yeah, sees heat.
Great, thanks. So I guess we'll wrap it up there. Thanks very much for everyone attending. And Rion, Kent, Becky, thanks so much for being part of the panel discussion. This has been awesome. I hope to do some more of these in the future. So stay tuned. Check your emails out for future things. There'll also be a recording of this that you can share with anybody who couldn't make it. If you have colleagues out there who might want to see this later, it'll be available. If you want to learn more about the technology Onset has built, please email me back and we can set up for a demo for you anytime. So thanks a lot.
Thanks, everybody.
Cheers, everyone. Thanks.
Bye.